Hello, thank you for joining me. This is Debbie with DebV. I know, multiple name changes. I just went with my name. It's so much easier. And this way, no matter what I put on it, This is the bag I'm making today. This is my design. It has a snap closure. It is, I call it Jack's phone pouch because it's for my grandson, Jackson. And it is a leg strap type. So if you're interested in how to make it, please stick around and we will get right to that. This is the pattern. Do a screenshot. This is the pattern instead of an upload, and I do say later in the video, I do believe that I was going to make it downloadable, but that didn't happen. So this tells you what you need, okay? It's really a basic, it's just rectangles. It's all rectangles. In the design, I have it where the belt goes right through this, just as it does on the top. It just happened to be that I had velcro already on 2 little pieces that were cut, so mine is sewn closed. And I will go through that while making the pattern. So please join me for making Jack's phone pouch. For the Jack's phone pouch, we need enough webbing for a belt plus 6 to 8 inches. This happens to have been, it was to a camera case. It was never used. I've cut it down to the size I want it. This, a parachute clip. So this will fit in like this. I've got a slider tab so that it'll be locking. For the leg, I'm using velcro. It happened to be a couple of pieces that I had, so instead of it being a belt that slides through the loop, I will close the loop on the side of these on the bag. To make the belt loops, I have cut 4 pieces, 3.5 by 5. I'm going to do, even though I'm using leather, I still want it to have some weight, and instead of using the waterproof canvas inside of it, I decided to just use 2 layers of leather. Still have to test this machine out on leather, so this will be a good opportunity. It will be multiple layers by the time we get done. So we want 4 pieces, 3.5 by 5. For the outside of the bag, it'll be, just ignore that, it'll lay down eventually. We need 2 pieces, 5 wide by 9 tall. For the lining, I've got waterproof canvas here. If you're using a fabric, you're going to want to interface. I would go with something a little more lighter weight on this, unless you're using fabric for both layers. If you're using something lighter weight than leather or vinyl, for the outer, you'll want a stiffer interfacing for the outer fabric. This, because it's waterproof canvas, 300, what is that called? 300 denier. It's got a little stiffness to it. It'll be heavy enough with the leather, so I'm going with that. Those are cut the same size as the outer pieces, 5 inches by 9 inches. So what you do is, the way these are done, You punch a hole through the fabric, you put one through the back like a rivet. And then this would be on the outside with the female to the inside. And these are the tools I use for setting them. So the new thought of this, unless I get rich and get a industrial machine anytime soon, which is not going to happen, we're going to use the lining material, which is 300 denier weight of waterproof canvas, and it's going to be a double layer because I'm making a tube. So let's find our 1/4 inch here, drop it down. I want my stitch back to what it was originally, and we can go. Nope. Right, let's get these turned out. I'm doing it just like I did the other ones. So if I jump, if I cut it down for brevity's sake, these really long videos aren't well appreciated at this point in my channel's life, so I might cut all that boo-boo area out if I can find a spot that makes sense. Just want to get something on there while I crease the other. One nice thing about this canvas, it actually is pretty easy to get a nice clean edge on it when you're wanting to do a fold and a top stitch. And I like this weight. It's not too horribly heavy. Some of that stuff is, oh my goodness, so heavy. Aw, look what I did. Well, that's the inside now. And I double checked it and I still managed to get the wrong side out. That's alright. We'll make it inside of the fold. It will not matter. I prefer my tags kind of hanging over the bag, but I decided I would just put it there. So now I'm going to top stitch it and then we'll fold it over like that. And as I started to say, if it's not making any sense to you because I keep talking about changing this, it's because I started this with leather for all of these pieces, and this machine couldn't handle 8 layers of leather. Was a little too much for it, and I don't want to take a chance of hurting my machine, so I stopped, took it apart, and recut fabric. I hope someday I have a following that doesn't mind my chattering long videos, but for the time being, it's worth it. For the time being, I will try to be a little more brief. Okay. So, now what this has to do is, I'm eyeballing it. have to make sure I miss all that. So I'm going to tuck that inside for now. Let's try these. Let's try these. I need the tips. All right. Now we're going to sew these down, and this is just to hold it into place, so I'm going to do it at 1/8 of an inch just to baste it in place. Now we're going to sew the sides and the bottom together. I think I'll do the bottom first. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. So that's at 1/4 of an inch. If you're using leather and it stretches a little out of shape, I'm not going to worry about that little bit, that 1/8 of an inch it stretched there while I was trying to get it started. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to turn this over and go from this finished end down. And I have to miss this. So maybe we will try to move that away. There, now I can feel it underneath. That might help. Let's put a hump jumper in there. See if that'll help. No, I need this to not stretch a lot of ways on one side. It drags, it's a different beast. It can be very difficult. This foot, I'm hoping this is just a little bit of, oh, here we go. I'm going to see if this will work a little smoother with it. with some tape on the bottom because it really just doesn't want to move. But more than likely, right where I had to cut it so the needle can go through will tear off. That's what happens for me. Other people do this all the time and it works great. I do it. My tape ends up stuck to the fabric and drags down. Alright. I'm going to leave that tail in the back just so it's a little easier to pick up. Alright, let's get that back on. Oh, guess what? That one can't go through. Oh, well. It'll work itself out in the end. Quarter inch. Ha! All right, let's see if it worked. And I haven't trimmed those corners, so they're not going to poke out real well at this point. It has to come right back out anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't get that nubby in there. Come on. That worked. Alright, we know the other side did. Just big enough for his phone. That's all I needed. Big enough for the phone. I mean, you could, as an adult, we could slide a card down in there, that kind of a thing. But he's 12. He only needs to slide his phone in. It is so narrow. Now, we have our lining. Let's trim all our corners before we forget. All our little corners. Urgh. This, even though it's, well, let's get the thread. I'm just taking a tiny little bit off of that. Just trying to make it a little easier. And this one, it did stretch a little. I turned mine with the lining out. Normally I do it lining in. As long as the right sides are together and you've got a hole on the bottom of your lining for turning, it shouldn't make any difference. But we'll find out if this video gets made or not. Alright, all I'm going to do is match up my edges. My thing is that I wanted the leather on top. I want the smooth part on the bottom. That tape is helping with the leather, but this, it drags so bad. It's an upholstery leather. It is made literally for stretching, and it does it well. Okay, now I just got to get that great big foot in there. Now comes the fun part, trying to turn it. Already popped some seams. Okay. If you can slide it like a tube, it'll be better. Because as soon as you start gripping the side, it wants to tear those. I didn't hardly do any edges. It's already coming out. Everything's still open there. Get that pulled out. I didn't close anything up. Yeah! My little label. Ta-da! Okay. Yeah, completely pulled that seam out. That's alright. That's okay. Well, first, before you... Now, let's see, for the leather, I could pull that out, but no problem. For this, the side that the seam didn't pull out of, I need to get the corner up. That was easy. Okay. Now we will fold some under and pin it. Well, clip it. Ta-da. Okay, I've got it tucked in and pinned in place. Let's get a stitch on it to keep it closed. One thing I've noticed about this machine is when you're first starting off, and it's, you know, like you're going across the seam here, it'll just stay. It won't move. I have to pick up the foot and move it. See? It's doing it again. Now we just have to get that lining down inside. This is a chopstick I covered in tape so that when I made a ton of scrunchies. I, like everyone else, I guess, was going to sell them. So I have a ton of scrunchies. There are those that make them and sell them successfully, but I did not. Make sure you don't use anything too pointy for this, because it is a bunch of kind of jabbing to get it down in there. And you do not want to punch holes all through it after all that work. Now, normally I would have top stitched around this, but to be perfectly honest, I don't want to take a chance. When it gets to these edges, that machine's going to be mad. So I'm just not going to even worry about it. Now, I want my snap in place. So, we will do that. All right, let's find the center so we can get the snap put in. I'm gonna go down 1/2 of an inch. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm going down 3/4 of an inch, and I'm gonna put a dot. Well, I put a little line. And now we will do it from this side also. This is Tandy leather marking. So the interesting part, this cuts your hole. I took the sound out right here because, I was hammering on metal. So I'm going to tap that. That is a tack hammer. I've had it for like 40 years. They last forever. And we have to pound it to cut through that. Leather can be a bit tough, so it takes me a bit to get it cut out. It would be this part, and I know it's not the right color. I had bought this to fix one of my son's jackets, and it happens to be what I've got right now. This was, oh my goodness. That came with the snaps, and it doesn't cut the hole big enough. Okay. I'm just sliding it around to try and stretch the hole, because if I cut it, then we can guarantee it'll be too big. Wow. The leather keeps going right back. Alright, I finally got it in the hole. So, the way this works, we have to stretch that out over top. I put it on there, and I'm just gonna, it's just a tissue I had used to brush something off. So I will just set it underneath. I prefer to protect it a little bit, at least a little bit. And I will try to cut out the sound. Okay, what you need to do is get that metal to roll out over, so multiple small taps to make the metal kind of soften up, and so it'll roll, because you don't really want it to split. So the front is on. I'm going to verify that it's actually hitting it. See, just slightly. That's not actually where my mark is, but that stuff wipes right off. So I am going to get my sides where they're supposed to be, get my top where it's supposed to be. Put it up right in the center of that snap. And that works too. Now, use the flat side. The other side has a bump, and that's when you put this down, you use the bumpy side. So to cut the hole, use the flat side. And now I don't want to ruin that snap as I'm cutting this hole or placing this snap. So I will move it all to the side. See, it's not underneath it. And we gotta cut it again. Okay. Got the hole punched in. This is the back. So we have the nubby sticking up. We take this. That is the back side. This is the front. We put that like that. We get our little metal piece out. Now you want to make sure that when you do this, you fit that hole over that bump. And that's done. Then we do it just like we did before. The pokey end, not the flat, the pokey end gets fit into that. And we pound. I'll be back after the pounding's done. Okay, I've got that pounded in. Not quite as gracefully as the first one. The snap is they're always stiff, but it was for a jacket, so it should be good and strong. He shouldn't lose his phone. That was my phone. See, lots of room in here. That's my phone in there. And I still have, as a matter of fact, there's a bigger phone right here. I have a separate phone for when I do deliveries. Whoo! I should have did it for measurements on that. It fits though. And it snaps. So if he has a phone bigger, this is an S22. This, ooh, what was it? An A23 or something like that. I don't even remember. I got it inexpensively. For mine, I am putting the ends of the leg straps in and stitching them into place. So let's get that done and sew them down. I will sew back and forth across it 3 times just to make sure that it's well secured. If you are making one solid belt, you do not do this. You just sew the Velcro onto the ends. Once we're done with this section, we will work on the belt. Here I'm going to sew the end of the clip on. It had been on, I'm sure you noticed that, but it was white thread and I took it off and re-sewed it into place. You want to make sure you put a box and an X in the middle of the box so that it's very well secured. I chose not to use any rivets because this is actually a very lightweight nylon belting and I didn't want to take a chance of shredding anything. Now, before we put the other end on, we want to make sure we get it through the loop because the loop isn't made big enough to pull those in. Now we're going to loop it into the slide. We go from the front into the back hole, slide it down out of your way. Now you want to make sure that you are working with an untwisted belting. Now we'll go from the back hole on the clip to the front hole. Come out. Give yourself a little slack. Now you're going to go back to your slide from the back side, loosen it up so that you have room to work, and we're going to take the end of the belt, we're going to put it in the center towards the back, and then up that hole. If you need to, grab some tweezers to grab the end. Get that pulled through. And now make sure you have a 1.5 to 2 inches for sewing. As long as you've added it to the length of the webbing, you're set. And now we're going to have to sew that into place. All done. I didn't even turn on the mic when I was at the sewing machine. I will hopefully, if it needs any talking through it, I will explain. I had gone through and explained pretty much everything I was doing. So this is sewn into place. Went over it 3 times. I think it'll survive a 12-year-old boy. The adjustable belt. I am really glad that I did change the pattern and go with the slide. I wasn't going to put this on there, and this really makes all the difference in the world. It really does. These, like I said, came off of a camera bag. If you've got an old bag laying around, you go to the thrift store, grab those really inexpensive backpacks and such, and the worse off it is, the cheaper you'll get it, and grab the pieces from it. They come in handy. But thank you again for joining me. You have a great day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.